Hi y'all, you're watching Writing Wednesdays. My name is Maverick Moses and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be covering part 3 of my Outlining 101 series. As a quick review, part 1 we covered how to brainstorm, and in part 2 we covered how to write a plot line. And I'll link both of those videos down below in case you haven't watched them yet. This third part isn't a crucial part in the outlining series, but in my experience I've found that it does help tremendously when you're going further on in the outlining process and start writing your book. This step can be done now or at the very end of your outline, but I put it here on step 3 because that is what I personally do as my next step in my outlining process. Just as a heads up, this won't be like my other videos where I'll be giving you a step-by-step process of how to do it. Rather, I'm going to make it more of like a discussion with you, talking about a concept that many of you probably don't know about. So you have an awesome book idea, a direction of how you want to take your book, and a concept of the main points and scenes that you want to have in your book. Now it's time to start getting in depth with the chapters, but you are having a hard time doing this because you don't even know how to start each chapter. You know that you need a good hook, especially at the beginning of the book, but you're having a hard time writing it. Maybe you've been told to completely skip the opening hook and go right into the meat of the story. But you're like me and thousands of other writers out there who can't totally just skip an entire section of the book and go right into something else because our writer's OCD brain has to make sure we do things in order. And because you can't figure out the hook, you never even start writing the chapters, and all of that time outlining has been for naught. To prevent that from happening, I recommend that you now write each chapter's hook and end. You'll get the idea of how to do the breakdown of all the chapters based on those little climaxes that we covered in my How to Write a Plotline video. But what I want you to do here is write the first and the last sentence of each chapter. You want every chapter to lead into the next. Each chapter should start with an enticing hook and end with a compelling end. Both hooks and ends serve one main purpose: to motivate the reader to keep reading. Here are some ideas for a good chapter hook. Start with a quote, aka dialogue. Depict a setting with words that invoke specific senses like sight, smell, touch, or hearing. Or 3, start with a dramatic outcry or bang. These are just a few ideas to get your writing juices going. When writing hooks, make sure you keep in mind how the previous chapter ended so that this next scene is a logical next part of the story. When reading a book, typically readers will wait until they've finished a chapter before putting the book down and moving on to something else. But you don't want them to put the book down. So to fight that urge, you want to end each chapter with a gripping end that will lead into the next chapter. This could also be called a cliffhanger. Remember those little climaxes from part 2? You'll typically want to place those little climaxes in the overlapping sections between the end of the chapter and the beginning of the next. So you'll build up the scene with your little rise leading into the opening part of that little climax. Then, right at a crucial part in that climactic scene, you end the chapter. This will leave your reader hanging and motivate them to move on to the next chapter, thus never putting the book down. In that next chapter, they'll not only see that little climax, but they'll see the falling action that goes with it. Then that falling action will translate into the next step of the rising action, leading into the next little climax, and the process continues, so on and so forth until the end of the book. So go to your outline, and before you go in depth with the outlining of each chapter, which by the way is going to be part 4 of my Outlining 101 series, go in and write a 1-sentence hook and a 1-sentence end for each chapter. This will make outlining each chapter much easier, and it will make it way easier on you going forward when you actually start writing your book, because you'll never get to that point where you don't know how to start the chapter. I'd love to hear any other cool ideas you have for chapter hooks, so be sure to leave them down in the comments below and help some other writers too. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you want more Writing Wednesdays every week, please hit that subscribe button. Be sure to follow me on Instagram for behind the pages insight into my life and work and sneak peeks of future videos. See y'all next week. Bye!